What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Spoken Truth Podcast live edition as we continue to dive into this Golden State Warriors and Dallas Mavericks game one of the Western Conference Finals. Now, the score right now is 54-43 with about 30 seconds left in the game. Real quick, I just want to get you guys' opinion on what you have seen in the first half of this game, real quick.
Yeah, we were just talking about Steph, not knocking down shots that we usually expect him to make. He just got a good look in transition there. Good pass from Clay, being real patient in transition. He's kind of ramped it up these last few minutes, as the Warriors defense. But Luka has, hit a couple of shots to keep him within striking distance in these last couple of minutes.
Tunde?
I'd echo a lot of that. I think we're seeing both teams kind of attack basically the way they want to. Dallas with a more spread pick and roll heavy approach. The Warriors with a more emotion based offense, both ball and player. And what we're getting right now is I think we've got a Dallas team that probably realistically has some tired legs, having just played on Sunday. And we're getting a Warriors team that's been able to force stops. You're seeing things like guys getting beat off straight line drives, and the Warriors able to score some in transition that all kind of point towards that. But yeah, I think that's what we're seeing right now.
Yeah, absolutely. As that game goes into halftime, we're going to keep you guys updated with the live scores and our live opinion on that game throughout the second half. But right now, I wanted to switch gears a little bit to the Phoenix Suns, who came into the playoffs the number one seed in the entire NBA, and had just a horrible. I'm trying to be nice here. But it was
an embarrassment.
It was an embarrassment, honestly, an embarrassment collapse of something of, I don't know, all of my years watching the NBA, have I ever seen a team just be embarrassed the way that the Phoenix Suns were embarrassed in that 7-game series against the Mavericks. And although I picked the Warriors to win, that 50-point blowout against Memphis, it didn't come in a crucial sealing game that Memphis would have advanced to the Western Conference Finals. So I really don't compare the two, but I wanted to get you guys' initial reaction to that epic collapse by the Phoenix Suns. Chaz?
Yeah, like I said, I thought it was an embarrassment. I mean, we can talk about like historical comparisons, other 1 seed to other 60-win teams that have gone down that early. I don't know if we've seen a team go out like that though, like to your point. With the embarrassment at home. I mean, from the tip-off too, like Luka put him up 8-0 early, and it seemed like that crowd was already freaking out. It seemed like they were rushing shots. Chris Paul, I mean, we can talk about what the backcourt looked like, but they really struggled, throughout the entire game on both ends of the floor. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's tough to. People are kind of freaking out about where they think the Suns need to go in the future and all that. But just in the moment, it's definitely a loss that's going to sting for a little bit, I feel like.
I think I don't know what the hell that was. That didn't look like the Phoenix Suns. I didn't pick the Phoenix Suns to make the finals, but they're a much better basketball team than that. We saw poor execution in the half court. We saw bad spacing. We saw, Luka tearing everybody up and looking like he was having fun,
Absolutely. Every time that camera cut to him, he was smiling. And I said, man, he's torturing these guys.
Yep.
And then I think we saw I think from the Phoenix side of things, everybody is obviously focused a lot on Chris Paul and his play, especially through the last 5 games of the series. One of the biggest subplots of this season and of the playoffs especially was Cam Payne becoming, pretty much unplayable and just not performing well these last, the last month or so. That's been huge for the Phoenix Suns. Last year on their run to the finals, they got great minutes from Cameron Payne, and those minutes allowed them to, take some of the shot creation burden off of Chris Paul. And then obviously Chris Paul was injured kind of injured last year in the playoffs, missed some games. But yeah, we weren't able to get that from Cameron Payne, and that meant more minutes for Chris Paul. As good a player as Chris Paul is, he is still quite old, and I think what we ended up seeing was the results of Chris Paul just being exhausted. A lot of it was Chris Paul being exhausted. But I also think we saw some of the limitations in Devin Booker's game. I think being able to more consistently shoot with range, so not just threes but deep threes, is something you'll see from him going forward. At least I would imagine would be a focus working on in the offseason for him. And I would also imagine that we kind of see. It wouldn't surprise me if the Suns went in on another perimeter creator. It wouldn't even surprise me if Chris Paul wasn't on the roster
But
next
that
year.
needed to be done in the offseason, though.
Oh yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
No, that needed to be done last offseason.
Oh, the Chris Paul thing? Or going
No,
in
another perimeter player. They
Ah.
needed to add another perimeter player last offseason. They should have already done that.
Where do you think the spot is they need to improve on? Like the Jay Crowder spot?
I think they needed someone. I think they needed. I'm not they can't get this guy, but they needed someone like a Drew Holiday. To me, they needed someone like an Eric Bledsoe. To me, they needed someone like one of those type of players that can hit perimeter shots, and they can be good to great on a defensive end, and they're able to spread the floor. Now, obviously, Chris Paul is the ultimate floor general, but as he's getting older, you can tell that he just can't affect the team the way that he once did. And he was tremendous in the regular season. But you can see as they move from series to series in his playoffs, his game regressed more and more and more every single game. That's exhaustion. And I agree with you, Tunde. The first time I think we ever agreed on something. That's him being tired to me. And I don't never want to hear, I don't even know if I'd said this, but I don't want to hear anything of Devin Booker being in the same class as Luka Doncic. That's not even remotely a subject that needs to be discussed. I don't need to hear Devin Booker is a superstar. I don't need to hear Devin Booker is a number one option. He's not. He's not.
I mean, yes, he is.
He's not. No, he's
the
not.
number one option.
No,
We don't have to.
He still has his flaws.
We don't
No,
have
he's
to do the
not.
hyperbole.
No, I'm not doing hyperbole. This is something that I've been said though, so it's nothing new.
I mean,
it's nothing new.
I don't know if he's the number one option right now, but I mean,
He's not a number one option.
became apparent though that he has flaws to his game that
No.
they really exposed. I mean, his inability to create shots for other people when they were double teaming him a lot. He wasn't making the correct decision over and over and over. I mean, he has to improve that aspect of his game. And I mean, I think he has the potential to be the number one option. But their over reliance on Chris Paul at this age.
It shouldn't be the case.
It shouldn't be. Yeah, you're right. Like Devin Booker and DeAndre Ayton need Chris Paul to play at a high level for them to be good a lot of the time. And it shouldn't be like that, especially for Booker.
Right, but my issue with the whole Chris Paul thing, that I think that a lot of that has more to do with them not having another point guard who could eat up non-Chris Paul minutes playing next to Devin Booker.
But that wasn't the issue last year in the
Booker was
playoffs.
the number one option. No, because Cameron Payne played well last year.
But hold on, he was still on the roster. He was still on the roster though.
Yeah, he wasn't good. He was terrible the last 6 weeks.
My thing is, I get it. He didn't play as good as he played last year. My thing is, Devin Booker, the guy that's supposed to be the heir apparent to Kobe. We're not saying that his skill level and all that. His mentality is like Kobe. The thing is that he's supposed to be the guy. He's supposed to be the number one option. He's supposed to be the driving force of this Phoenix Suns team, not a 37-year-old point guard who just turned 37 last Friday and expect him to will this team to an NBA Finals. And a lot of people picked this Phoenix Suns team to represent the West in the Finals. And I'm not the only one, but I'm one of the few that said this team is not making it out of the West. This team cannot beat that Golden State Warriors team. And although we didn't get that matchup that I think we all wanted, the Mavs did not have a better team than the Phoenix Suns. This is the point that I'm trying to prove. Phoenix had a better team than the Mavs. The Mavs just had the better player. And when it comes down to it, although they have the better player, the best team, 9 out of 10, always wins.
I think they got the better coach too.
You think the Mavs had a better? I think so. I think so too.
And defense too. I think.
But they don't have a better player though. They don't have a better team.
Yeah, I think the roster is better on Phoenix. I think the depth is. But when the backcourt is playing like that, I mean,
But if Devin Booker's that guy, if Devin Booker's a number one option,
then you
can't do that.
You don't go for 11 points. Yeah, you don't go for 11 points on 3 of 14 in a game 7 at home. You don't.
You can't. You cannot do that. I mean, I know you like Devin Booker, Tunde. I like Devin Booker too. You cannot have that type of performance in a game 1 and call yourself a number 1 option. No.
I think no. That
there's no hyperbole. I've been saying this
as much as it's not fun to admit it, like ultimately was game 7 an extremely important game. It determines who moves on to the next round. Yes, right. But it's one game. We're gonna start making grand sweeping statements about people off one game. Like you could come up with a lot of crazy shit. Steph Curry is 2 for 5 from the free throw line in the first half of this game. Steph Curry isn't a good free throw shooter because he's having a poor shooting half. You see how this it's not a good way to evaluate. It's not a good way to evaluate.
This man had 11 points in a crucial game 7. With a trip to the Western Conference Finals on the line, a trip to the Western Conference berth on the line. You have the best regular season team in the NBA, 64 wins. No one even came close. As obviously the best team in the league, you have the best overall team in the league, and you have Chris Paul, who at that particular point was playing the best basketball that he played at age 30. I mean, young 37, obviously he's starting 37. At that age, he was playing hell of basketball. He was playing awesome.
Birthday.
He was playing awesome. It seemed like when he turned 37, the stuff that hit the fan.
It's been horrible. The last 5 games are really concerning.
But what I'm saying is, if you're that guy, that cannot happen that way. That's all I'm saying. It cannot happen the way that it happened. It can happen. Obviously, it can lose game 7. It cannot happen going 1 for 11 points, and getting smoked in your home building on a game 7 with a trip to the Western Conference Finals on the line. It cannot happen that way. It can't. I don't care. It cannot happen that way. You can lose, obviously. You can lose because he's a better player. That's great. But you cannot lose the way that they lost.
I agree.
I don't disagree that the way they lost was unacceptable. I just don't think it makes me think that Devin Booker is all of a sudden not a number 1 option on.
He's not. He's never been. He's never been.
Sure.
I'm not living in the moment. I've been saying that since the start of the season. He's not. I'm just saying that.
I agree with you. I mean, I think he can be at some point, but he has to improve on his game. I mean, we saw him be a first team All NBA type performer this year, so I feel like it is in there. We saw growth, the last few years on defense and his shot creation for others, but it wasn't there in that game 7. So it's something that he's going to have to really focus on. They have to learn from this. I mean, you got to be able to try and take something from it.
That was one of the.
So when we're saying this, are we talking about in terms of winning a championship, Devin Booker isn't the number 1 option, or just in general, Devin Booker isn't good enough to be a number 1 option on?
I think he's not. I think Devin Booker. Let me make sure I'm clear with this. Let me make sure I'm crystal clear. I do not think Devin Booker can be the best player on your team and you win a championship.
I'll disagree with that.
That is my stance.
You think right now, Tunde, that he's capable of that?
Yeah.
What about you, Chaz?
I don't know. I didn't see it in what, game 6 or game 7, so it's tough to say that. And I
He
mean,
can be the
last
best.
year Chris Paul was playing at such a high level that, Booker, you could argue that he was the number 1 option, but they were clicking together. So he was the one that needed to step up, I feel like, in this game 7, with Chris Paul obviously not being, at that same level as he was even a few weeks ago. And Booker wasn't able to really take that. I do think it's in there though.
You're supposed to have kings to the kingdom, Devin Booker. Chris Paul handed you the king to the king. First of all, it's always been Devin Booker's team. Devin Booker has always been the best player on that team.
I don't know. I feel like Chris Paul kind of took that franchise over when he came in.
I think so too, but it should have never been that way. But
Devin Booker is the best player on that roster, and he's been the best player on that roster since he got
too. But
is he the most important though?
He is, but that's not enough to win a championship as him being number 1.
I don't know. I feel like they need Chris Paul to orchestrate so much.
I think so too, but that doesn't make him the best. I think they need Chris Paul on that roster to make things go, but that doesn't make Chris Paul the best player on that team.
I think Booker's the best player. I think Paul is more impactful. I feel like he's the one that gets them going, and it shouldn't be like that anymore.
Yeah, I think Devin Booker is the best player on that team, but he can't be a number 1 to lead you to a championship. That's been my number. Do
you think he has it in him
that from the beginning?
Do you think he has it in him at some point?
I think he has it in him. I think every potential superstar or star player wants to believe they have that in them. It's just about displaying that and showing that. Well, it's not about losing. You, though? It's not about. I don't know. I don't know. It's hard to say. I still think he's a star in this league. But it's not. I think Tunde always think I'm looking at the losses and not being able to go to the finals. It's not that. It's the way it's done. It's the way that it's done. It's the way he lost. It's the way that he lost. It wasn't that Kevin Durant lost. It's the way that he lost. It's not the way that Devin Booker lost to the Dallas Mavericks. And it's not the reason he lost. It's the way that he lost to the Mavericks that I look at it like, no. It's not that you lose. Everyone loses. It's not about that. It's about how you lose.
I like it. Can't go out like that.
They got stunned. It's no question about it. 1 for 11 points, virtually a no-show. Just got shellacked from open and tap in game 7. It wasn't even close. They got into an 8-0 lead and then didn't even look back. If you're that guy, you have to stop the bleeding somehow. If you're the guy, you have to stop the bleeding somehow.
No, I agree. And I kind of wanted to get your guys' take too on, where they go from here. We can talk about, obviously, Aiden got benched in the second half. I think he only played 17 minutes. So, Tunde, you mentioned.
He got benched.
No, he did for sure. Tunde, you mentioned earlier.
Why are you benching your second star, your second future star?
Well, Monty Williams said that. I heard that somebody said Monty Williams said that Aiden gave up or something.
He gave up on him.
So
yeah.
I mean, I don't know if he thought that the last several games or just the first half, but he was obviously fed up to where he didn't want to put him back in the game after that.
I'm not blaming Monty for sitting him. I'm saying if DeAndre Ayton is that dude, why is your coach saying your lack of effort causes me to bench you?
I agree. Yeah. I mean, that's what I mean. I feel like Chris Paul is the one that gets the most out of these guys, and it shouldn't be like that. They should have their own motor. I mean, Aiden was getting killed over and over and over.
Aiden has a low motor. I've noticed.
Yeah, and the effort just wasn't there to me. And I mean, obviously he was at a disadvantage trying to guard perimeter guys. That's going to be a struggle for anybody. But I feel like you want to at least put out the maximum effort. And Monty didn't think he was doing that. Obviously.
Do you pay him?
I mean, for me, yes.
You pay
him
max?
Yeah. He's still a really good basketball player. Yes. Throw the money at him.
Okay.
I mean, going forward, I mean, I think it depends on what direction the team wants to go in. I've heard some rumors that at the trade deadline, they were looking into trying to find a way to swap DeAndre Ayton for Domantas Sabonis. That to me suggests kind of like post Chris Paul plans. Because Sabonis is somebody who offensively could operate as a hub, a passing hub, at that, especially like a high post extended. Whereas, continuing with DeAndre Ayton is banking more on him continuing to develop the scoring package. And then you'll have you'll have another guard along with Devin Booker who handle the primary playmaking duties. If it's me, I mean, part of the reason why we see what we see from DeAndre Ayton, it's almost a bit of I'll use the term like learned specialization or learned helplessness here. They asked DeAndre Ayton to play a bit of a narrow role within his skill set, and so that's part of why we don't see, I think, the full package of his post moves. They ask him to roll hard. They ask him to score on duck-ins. They don't run a ton of plays for him. It's a lot of it is catching, finishing, catching, nice touch around the rim, set good screens. He's a star in that role. I think there's very clearly more meat on the bone with him, and that's why I'm willing to pay him the max. I think there's ability for him to grow into a 22, 23 point a game scorer going forward. And I think he's still got room to grow on the defensive end, but the strides he's made since he hit the league have been astronomical. So yeah, I'm banking on the continued improvement and development of like a 23-year-old center who at this year averaged like 18 and 12. Like I'll rock with that.
So with Sarver's past being hesitant to pay guys, do you think they do? He's a restricted, so I'm assuming somebody else is going to offer him something. Do you think they match that? And do you also think Chris Paul's back next year as well?
I think Chris Paul's back as the third quarter opens up with Steph Curry draining the three, 59-47. He's up to 15 points, 7 rebounds, and 4 assists. We will keep you guys updated as well as live looks into their game as it progresses. Luka Doncic gets the ball stolen as Klay Thompson drives to the rim, lays the ball up.
Steph's footwork in traffic is just so
it's insane.
Still.
It's insane. At what is Steph, 34 now? I believe Steph is 33 or 34 now. Mm-hmm. His footwork in traffic is insane. I definitely agree.
That was Klay's first bucket too.
Yeah, absolutely. As Klay is bringing the ball back up, the pace. This is one of the things that I was talking about with the Warriors. The pace that they want to play with, they're forcing Dallas to play at that speed. Mm-hmm. And Luka's job is to slow it down. But one of the things that I said earlier is the Warriors forces you to play their brand of basketball. Yep. And I think that's one of the major differences in this series. And it's one of the things the Warriors have done in this championship dynasty period. As Steph drains another three, he is on fire right now.
Yeah, if you're not hitting shots and you're letting this team get out in transition, get out quick, it's a wrap. We've seen that for years.
Yeah. I mean, but like for the rest of this series, the fact that it's just a bunch of open catch and shoot, like it's like we're seeing, Reggie Bullock and Maxi Kleber and Dorian Finney-Smith and Jalen Brunson. Like we're seeing guys miss good looks.
Yeah.
Like, absolutely. You got to imagine like they'll make those.
No, absolutely. I think Dallas role players tend to play better at home, and I expect them to play better at home. But also, Dallas just simply missing shots. A lot of wide open shots. They're missing them tonight. And the Warriors had this problem last series where they were just missing shots, wide open shots. Steph, I think I said this to Chaz last week. I think Steph makes shots. He makes more shots contested than he does open. And I don't know why that is, but it seems like Steph wants to be guarded. He wants to make it a little complicated, but he misses the wide open threes. I never understood that logic, but it seems to be how it is with him. He will miss a wide open three, but he could have a contested three and he nail it. I don't get it, but
he at least likes to have a guy running at him a little bit.
You got to be chasing after him in order for him to make the shot.
But yeah, no. To your point though, the Mavericks are what 7 of 31 from 3. So I mean, if they do that, they're not going to win a lot of these games.
Yeah, real quick, back to your point before we end this segment. I think they keep Chris Paul. I think they talked to Ayton and I don't think they have a choice, honestly, to pay him. I don't think this team can go in many directions. I think they should just bring it all back, as they, construct it the way as it is, and try to do this thing over again. I don't think they make many moves. I think they get a backup point guard for Chris Paul, one that can run the offense when he's not there. I think they need a reliable two guard to back up Devin Booker in times where he's off. I think they have enough big men with JaVale McGee's of the world, and they have Aiden as well. I think Aiden needs to.
No.
You
I was
think
just
they
gonna
need a
say,
big man?
I feel like they need an ability to play a different way. All their big men are mainly around the rim type of guys. Dallas was able to spread them out. I feel like every team needs to have an ability to go small.
Every single point that you've made about them is the reason why I favor Golden State against them. Like, Golden State brings out your big men from inside the paint out to guard them to the three.
Yeah,
So
you need to have a way to play that way.
Yeah, every single point that we've made on the Phoenix Suns and the Golden State Warriors is the reason why I picked Golden State to beat them, and obviously it didn't come true. But the reason why I picked Golden State to beat them because they don't have anyone that really can go out and guard those perimeter players of Golden State Warriors. That favors the Warriors. Tempo favors the Warriors. Personnel favors the Warriors. Depth, the 1 to 15 favors the Warriors. Although Phoenix has their rosters are almost identical, the Warriors have more explosive offensive players. So that favors the Warriors. So looking at those two teams, I gotta think Phoenix restructures it a little bit, but they come back with almost the same they come back with the same core.
Yeah,
I don't think you change much.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. I don't know how much flexibility they have. I think they're already over the tax, so they probably will pay Aiden, but it's not going to be. I think it's going to be something that they kind of struggle with internally. If I'm somebody like the Pistons, I'm definitely throwing a max at him.
I was literally just about to say.
At least force them. At least force them to do it.
I was literally just about to say, I hope Phoenix doesn't do all that so we can. Please.
If I'm the Pistons, I'm throwing money at Aiden and Jalen Brunson.
Agreed on both counts. Those are both guys who I think would be awesome to have on the roster.
You know what? We're taking a deep dive into the NBA draft next segment. We're actually going to get into that a little bit. But what we're seeing right now is the Warriors are just careless with the ball. And I've seen this. I mean, this has happened in the Steve Kerr era of just throwing the ball away, making careless turnovers. The Warriors beat themselves like all the time. And if you're rooting for this team, it drives you insane because they make boneheaded decisions that they shouldn't make. And Steph Curry is the number one person that does it. Careless behind the back turnovers, over the shoulder, over the back passes. I mean, just pass the ball, Steph. Obviously, that's your star player. You're not going to pull him, but Steve Kerr needs to preach, take care of the basketball. The Warriors had 25 turnovers in Game 6 against Memphis. 25 turnovers.
They had turnover problems in a lot of those games.
A lot of those was unforced turnovers. Yeah. It's not like Memphis is on the ball guarding them. The Warriors are being careless with the basketball. Like, they have to clean that up if they want to make a deep run into, obviously they're making a deep run. If they want to win a championship, they have to clean up those turnovers. I know you're an offensive team that has a lot of ball movement, but you have to take care of the ball.
No, 100%. I think part of being a team that runs such a motion-based offense, where there's where so much of it ends up kind of being both the offensive player and the defense, both the passer and the person receiving the ball kind of reading a defensive coverage the same, is that sometimes you get this. But part of it is just that I think the team has like carelessness baked into it's baked into the DNA of the core of players that they have. This is, like you said, this has been the whole Steve Kerr run. I don't think that problem will go anywhere ever. I think we'll just all have to resign ourselves to the fact that there's going to be some games but they make you want to rip your hair out with the turnovers. And
Absolutely.
So,
go on. Yeah.
Anything else you wanted to say, Tony?
No, I think that's it.
Yeah, you're listening to
Yeah.
the Spoken Truth podcast. Go ahead, Trash. You wanted to say something?
I was just gonna say, yeah. I mean, obviously, the way that they play, they love to push the envelope and make those tight passes and stuff. I mean, it's just you got to make sure it doesn't cost you a game or cost you a series or something like that. But that's how they play. So you just can't.
Yeah, but I think the reason they get away with it is because it's their style of basketball, but also they're so potent on offense that Steve Kerr is like, okay, it's like almost taking a pro with a con to some sort. I know we're going to turn the ball over a lot, but I know our offense is going to be so potent that it may not matter. But I'm saying when you're playing a great team, specifically a great defensive team, you cannot turn the ball over like the Warriors turn the ball over. Especially when they played against Memphis. I mean, atrocious. I mean, they had 22 turnovers in game 5 blowout. You cannot turn the ball over 22, 25 times, 30 times. You cannot do it. Your turnovers cannot be more than your assist ratio. It just can't. That's not a recipe for winning basketball if you're the Warriors. You are listening to the Spoken Truth podcast on YouTube. If you like what we do, please consider subscribing to our podcast on YouTube. You can also find us on Spotify. All you got to do is type in Spoken Truth in the search bar.